Hi, I'm Victoria Pearson, but you can call me V. And my last couple of vlogs have been witchy ones. I gave you an altar tour, I've shown you how to do a spell. And so I thought I would drift away from that topic this week and just have a little chat with you about some stuff that I have been watching on TV at the moment. Now, this video probably will contain some mild spoilers for the Netflix show Chaos, for the Marvel show Agatha All Along, and for Epic the Musical, which you can find on YouTube. I will try and remember to sort of put a hand up when I'm saying a spoiler so that you can skip ahead if you haven't seen the shows, but I will try my best to keep spoilers fairly minimal for you. The reason that I wanted to talk to you about this is because I'm so annoyed with Netflix for cancelling Chaos, but we'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to talk you through how I got into this show. Now, as you may remember from previous videos where I've talked to you about it, before my daughter went off to university, we used to watch shows together in the afternoons sometimes, and I would often let her pick because then I get to see things that I wouldn't otherwise have seen before. And she introduced me to a lot of animated shows that I wouldn't have seen before, that I probably would have dismissed because it's animation as being like for kids, but quite a lot of them were very much not for kids. And she showed me shows that just wouldn't have come up in my normal circle. One of the things that she got into just before she left for uni was Epic the Musical. And that is a musical that is still in the process of being made. The songs are being released in little batches, which they call sagas, which I love that because obviously the books were in sagas as well. It's a musical retelling of the Odyssey. There aren't any visuals for it. The songs come out and then a bunch of people on YouTube make really quick little animations, animatics for it. And they're really good. I'm so blown away by the talent of these young people that just dash out these animatics to go with these songs. And they fit really well and the artwork's beautiful. And I sincerely hope that all of them get jobs as animators on the actual show if it becomes an animated show. I'm not sure whether it is planned for it to be a stage show or an animation at this stage. I think it was originally planned as a stage show, but it's difficult to see how they would do it. They would need a huge budget for like puppeteering and things like that because of the depictions of the gods within the story. Now, Epic the Musical sticks fairly closely to the original story of the Odyssey. For those of you who don't know the story of the Odyssey, after they had won the Battle of Troy, Odysseus and his men are trying to find their way home, but they've angered the gods, Poseidon specifically, and so they're really struggling to get home. It takes them a really long time to get home, and Odysseus is really quite urgently trying to get back to his wife. Being the king of Ithaca as well, that means that back at home where his wife and child are, there are a lot of men sort of massing up trying to become the new king of Ithaca by marrying his wife Penelope. And in the original myth, what she does is she says to them that they can't expect her to remarry until she's made her husband's burial shroud. And so she would spend all day weaving and then spend all night unpicking the weaving that she had done so that the task would never be finished. That isn't actually depicted in the musical at this stage. It may be later because, as I say, it's not quite finished yet. We are waiting for the next saga to be released on Halloween. I'm very excited for that, and so is my 9-year-old. And so there are a few adult themes in Epic the Musical, don't get me wrong. There are a few times where it's been a little bit difficult to explain what exactly is happening, like especially when Circe is trying to convince Odysseus to sleep with her so that she can manipulate him. And I've sort of said to my 9-year-old, she just wants to kiss him lots and he doesn't want to because he's married. They have sanitized Odysseus's reputation a little bit in this. They don't have him having affairs with Circe and Calypso and other things like that. But they haven't sanitized him completely. I mean, in the opening song, he does yeet a baby off of a tower because the gods told him to, just as he did in the original saga. But that aside, I don't mind when a retelling doesn't stick too closely to the original myth. I like that people can take things and change them. As you probably know from if you've read my books, I do a lot of fairy tale retellings and do sometimes biblical retellings and things like that. And I am actually planning on doing a Greek mythology retelling myself soon because it is my current hyperfocus. And so that being my current hyperfocus means that it finds its way into my artwork, it finds its way into my writing and stuff like that. And so if you're one of my Patreon supporters, you are probably going to get a Greek gods sort of themed story this month, because that is what I've been into this month. I think that it deviates from the story in ways that actually do add to the story, and I can see why they have changed some character traits of Odysseus to make him a little bit more appealing, because it's already quite difficult to create a hero who kills a baby in the opening scene and make you still be sympathetic towards him. And so I think that the reason that they've done it like that is so that you can be like, well, he did it all for love, he's done it all for Penelope. It's interesting seeing my children watching it because they haven't seen or heard of the original myth, and so they're very much justifying Odysseus killing this baby, while I'm saying, not sure that that was a good idea. I think maybe the message of this is that we shouldn't just blindly follow what the gods say, and that we should maybe apply our own morals to it. But that's been a really interesting conversation. It's been an ongoing conversation that we've had about whether something is still wrong if a god has told you to do it, and relative power as well. We've been talking about whether Odysseus is a very powerful man. He's a king, you know, but at the same time he feels like he is powerless before the gods. And so that's been an interesting discussion to be having at home as well. So I had caught up with all of the songs on Epic the Musical, and I had really, really enjoyed them. And so when I saw a tweet from Netflix saying that they had just cancelled their Greek Gods series, I had to go and watch it, even though it had been cancelled, because them talking about cancelling it was the very first that I had heard of this show. Now, at first, I wasn't going to watch it, but we had been watching Agatha all along, and we had caught up to that. And I was really, really enjoying Agatha all along, because, come on, hot lesbian witches, who's not going to love Agatha all along? I'm not a massive Marvel fan, find him a bit too shouty, a bit too explosion-y, a bit too and younger than me. But with WandaVision and Agatha all along, their little mini-series, and to a lesser extent Loki, I've really enjoyed the way that they've just let the quiet characterization come out. They haven't really relied very heavily on lots and lots of action sequences, and so I've really enjoyed that. But I'd caught up to it, and I was waiting for another episode to come out, and I needed something to watch in the meantime. So I said to my husband, you know what, it's only one series, it's already been cancelled, but I wouldn't mind giving this show a go. And I'm so glad that I did. I cannot believe that Netflix has cancelled such a brilliant show. You've got Jeff Goldblum in there as Zeus. And at first I thought, really? Jeff Goldblum as Zeus? But he plays it just perfectly. It is a brilliant, brilliant depiction of Zeus. It's just the right mix of ingredients of this really, really powerful man who is desperately scared of losing that power, and how that's making everything around him crumble. It was a brilliantly told story. It's also got Billie Piper in it as Cassandra. If you know your Greek myths well, you will know that Cassandra's curse is that she will always see the truth. She can see the future. She has the most accurate prophecies, but nobody ever believes her when she says them. Billie Piper plays that character brilliantly. She's just the right level of completely unhinged with loads of eyeliner, and that is exactly how I love Billie Piper in anything. Now, in Kaos, they have again changed the myth a little bit. It is the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. So for those who don't know your classics, what happened was Orpheus and Eurydice were married, Eurydice died, Orpheus couldn't handle that fact, and Dionysus, who loved Orpheus's music, agreed to help him get into the underworld so that he could go and retrieve her. In the original myths, he does manage to retrieve her, and he is told, whatever you do, just don't look back on your way out. He can't resist having a little glance back at his bride, and she's lost forever. And so it's this idea that we can really go to hell for our loves, and it may not matter anyway. Again, they have retold this myth, so they've changed certain aspects. I'm not going to tell you how they've changed them, because I want you to go and watch this show. But they've changed just enough to make it somehow even more tragic, somehow even more beautiful, somehow even more powerful. And I really, really love the way that they have worked Orpheus and Eurydice's relationship in that way. It is a beautiful depiction of how within relationships we grow, we change, we drift apart, we drift back together again. And without giving you any spoilers, I really, really like what they did with that particular relationship. But there's so much more going on. I will give you a minor spoiler. One thing that I didn't like was when Hera and Poseidon started having an affair, because I just can't imagine Hera doing that. Like, she is very much into her fidelity. In fact, in Epic the Musical, there is a scene where Athena has to convince the gods to help her to rescue Odysseus. And she's giving all these reasons why her champion should be rescued. And she says to Hera, you know, he's a genius, he's really good with words, he's brilliant with fighting, he's kind of funny, and all of this. Hera's like, nah, I don't know. And then she says, never once has he cheated on his wife, and Hera instantly says, release it, which kind of annoyed Zeus. I loved that little detail in Epic the Musical. It was really, really good. And so having Hera not be 100% faithful to Zeus didn't really work for me, but the way that they depicted it was very, very good. And like I say, there were a few different things within the show that were sort of modernizations, that were retellings, that were twisting the story a little bit. I don't mind that. If you're very into your classics, you might find that just a little bit grating in places, but it is still so worth the watch. Honestly, it is a brilliant, brilliant show. And the most annoying thing about it actually is that they didn't finish the story arc before they finished the season. It was originally planned to be 3 seasons. Apparently it flopped. I think it might have flopped because Netflix didn't tell anybody that it existed, because if people were watching the first episode of this show, you will definitely binge the rest of it. It's quite a short first season, and it really, really draws you in, and every minute of every episode is completely used to its full potential. There is no wasted episodes, there's no filler episodes, there's no lulling scenes where you want to go and look at your phone. Instead, it keeps you drawn in for the whole time. And I think part of the reason that it might be getting downvoted is because people who are watching it who don't know their classics, who think that Netflix has added in this trans storyline for this show, and they're, oh, it's all so woke and everything. The thing is, though, the trans storyline within, which isn't part of Orpheus and Eurydice's tale exactly, but the trans storyline that they've put in there is from the original myths. It is about somebody who grew up with the Amazons, realised that he was a boy and should leave, and didn't want to because he didn't want to go out into the world. But eventually he had to. He would have been killed by the Amazons if he didn't. In this, he is killed by the Amazons, and we meet him in the underworld, which, of course, when you die in a Greek myth, that isn't the end of your story. So that's not a major spoiler, I don't think. But I really, really enjoyed the way that they portrayed that storyline as well. The mixed feelings that that he has when he's waiting for his mother. He's waiting for his mother, but then one of the people that murders him comes and she tells him that his mother gave him up without any arguing, without any fighting, without any torture, just gave him up. And it was beautiful to see him wrestle the emotions between, like, what does he believe this person who actually killed him? Does he care if that's what she did? It was just a beautiful portrayal of the kind of grief that we have when we realise that a parent who's long gone may have had a life or made decisions that we didn't particularly agree with, that we would think are wrong, and how you reconcile that when you can't speak to that person about it. And I thought it was a really beautiful moment, even though it was only a short moment within the actual show. I thought it was really beautifully done, and I thought that the actors' facial expressions really stole the entire scene in that. Like, the dialogue wasn't necessary, that nothing was necessary apart from to zoom in on this guy's face. It was brilliantly done. I also really liked the Fates and the Furies within it. It was a very interesting depiction. Again, they aren't exactly how I would have imagined them when I was reading the classics, but for the purposes of this retelling, it was really, really good. And I can't recommend it enough, but especially for Jeff Goldblum's depiction of Zeus is one of the best depictions of Zeus that I've ever seen in any modern media. I really, really love how he played the character.
I'm the king of the motherfucking gods.
And I think it would be a real travesty, actually, if we don't get to see him complete that character's arc. I really, really need him to finish telling me this story. And I really, really need to see how this iteration of Zeus is going to cope with what is coming, what was set up at the end of the series. And so, if you guys love me, go and stream Kaos, go and review it, go and rate it, because I need them to pick it back up again and say, actually, we're going to give this another try. Honestly, I don't understand why any studio wouldn't want a product like that, because there's no IP that you've got to pay for. It's your stories are already written, they're in myth, you can just pick any, there's loads of them, and the source material is so very, very rich and so very, very ripe for retelling that I actually think that they would be really daft to not take up another season of it. So I very much doubt that anybody at Netflix or Amazon or anything is watching this, but one of you guys has to pick this up and give me the ending to this show, because I need it.
That's a command, not a request.
In fact, since then, I have been searching high and low for new Greek mythology themed content that I can watch. Because, you know, when I was a kid, I did watch Xena Warrior Princess, but the effects just don't stack up to modern day effects. Why can't somebody remake that if we have to do a remake? I don't know. But I haven't really been able to find anything that is as good as those two shows, especially Chaos. It is just so very well done. And so I need more shows like that. So if you know of any shows like that, then drop them in the comments, because I tried watching Atlantis, but again, it looks really, really dated and I just couldn't get into it for that reason. And I started watching Blood of Zeus, but again, I find it quite hard to get into animation. Something has to be exceptional to get me into an animated show, and in the first couple of episodes it hasn't really grabbed me, although somebody has said it's worth sticking with, so I'll give that a continual watch before I decide if I like it or not. But really, really, really need Netflix to make another show of Chaos. So please go and stream it, please go and review it, please go and ask Netflix to give you more of it, because I can't have this unfinished story in my head for the rest of my life. I need to see Jeff Goldblum's downfall. So that is what I've been up to this week, basically. With my bad back as well, I haven't been out and about very much, and so I have just been binge watching shows, and I feel really lucky that we've had some really, really good ones. I'm waiting for the end of From to come up, but that's quite dark. I'm waiting for the end of Agatha All Along to come up. That is so much fun. But I really, really, really need a new Greek mythology show. And so I really, really need them to finish this Chaos. Join me next week for my next vlog. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to be vlogging about yet, because we've got half term here, and then I've got my daughter coming home for her reading week. And so things are all going to be a bit chaotic here, and it might be a bit of a chaos vlog. But I will be here on Monday, as usual, 6 AM UK time, doing a vlog about something. And if you can't wait until then to see me again, I'll be here every single morning in your shorts, taking a great big deep breath, letting you know what I'm grateful for. Sometimes I'm letting you know what's challenging me that day as well, because, you know, we're real on this channel and there is no life that hasn't got challenges in it. I will also be here on a Witchy Wednesday doing an intuitive tarot card read for you as well. They're very, very tiny reads that I do on a Witchy Wednesday, but if you do want to, you can book me for a personalised longer read. I do short reads that are longer than the ones that I do on YouTube, and I do very long reads as well, so you can choose either. They're on my Ko-fi. I will try and remember to put that in the description for you as well. Until then, either fuck the gods or hail the gods, depending on which side of chaos you fall on, and you have yourself a magical week.